Hello, and welcome to the series where I show you what I am doing to try and become a web developer. My name's Craig, and this is week 9. Feeling so much better compared to the previous week, over the moon about that. And I even started to do a little bit of free code camp again on the JavaScript side of things. That was rather interesting. I'll dive into that slightly later. Let's first see how much time I've spent on web development this week. So in total this week, I've spent 26 hours and 14 minutes. I'm so happy that I'm kind of back up to a reasonable amount of time. Still would love to increase on that slightly more, but generally it's a very sweet spot for me before I get really mentally drained. In terms of tutorials and projects, this was more skewed towards projects this week, which is good. I spent 9 hours and 19 minutes on tutorials, and I spent 16 hours 55 minutes on projects. The projects is a lot heavier this week because I did have a meeting with my uncle to discuss his website, and I put that down as a project time. It was, a bit of a long meeting. We just had a general catch up as well, so probably not counted it quite right. This week I hit the 200-hour mark of studying web development since the start of this journey, and that's just crazy. It's quite a fair amount of time I've put in. I feel like I've only dipped my toe in the ocean, and there's just so much left to learn though. Once you start understanding what you can do, there's like, oh, well, I've got to do this and this and this, but I'm trying my hardest not to get overwhelmed, and it's just one foot in front of the other. Make sure I keep working on the foundations and I'll get there. What have I been learning this week? I've been getting back into my routine. So one morning I spent looking at Web Design in Easy Steps book, and that covered design and layout options. It did kind of start to show its age, this book. It didn't talk about any mobile first designs or really kind of Google fonts, anything most people would use nowadays, I guess. I believe the book was revised in 2016, so I'm a bit surprised by that. It has given me some food for thought though. It's learning little bits here and there, so I'm going to carry on doing that. The next chapter of that book is dedicated solely to navigation. That'll be quite a good topic to cover. Similarly, I've continued work with Eloquent JavaScript, spent a morning on that. Started to work through chapter 6, which is going into more depth on objects and constructor functions. I'm only part way through this chapter, but so far it's been pretty good. I did have to watch a few YouTube videos just to help my understanding a little bit, but I'm enjoying it. I've also started to write a index.js file on some of the examples, so I can refer back to that if I need to. And finally, the other kind of tutorial that I've been looking at quite heavily is the HTML email mastery course. I covered a couple of lessons on this, and I did watch it 3 times. So the first time I watch it, I just write notes by hand. The second time, I follow along and code with it. And then the third time, I tried it by myself, and I really struggled, if I'm honest, with that, trying to do it by myself. It just shows that I have a little bit more to go, really. I just don't understand why there's so many different tables. Surely you don't need that many. But I'll get there eventually. I'll just keep trying. And like I said earlier, one step in front of the other, I'll get there. One thing my uncle mentioned during our meeting was kind of hosting. He wanted a little bit of advice on best hosting options. Should he change? He just wants my opinion, really. So I've been doing a little bit of research on the main kind of hosting options. GitHub pages, Netlify, Bluehost, HostGator, Hostinger. I think those were the main ones I looked at, really. I've just been trying to compare them, what I think would be better for my uncle. So if you think you'd enjoy a video about those comparisons, let me know and I'll pull one together. And finally, as I mentioned in the intro, going back to Free Code Camp, I had forgot that I started the JavaScript module and made quite a lot of progress through it, but then I just hit a wall and really struggled. And I've heard a few stories of people going to the JavaScript part of the course and experience the same kind of thing, just really struggling, and it puts them off. So I think, I can't even remember when I did it, but I just stopped doing it and I was just a bit overwhelmed by it all. But going back to it, I've completed 3 projects on it this week, and next one I've started, but I need to have a bit of a refresher on regular expressions to finish that one off. There's a few other lessons beforehand which I haven't completed, but I'll go through and make sure I get those finished. The main reason I've had for going back to Free Code Camp is I just want a small certificate on my website just to say I am kind of proficient in JavaScript and I'm not making it up. I know certificates don't really mean that much, but it'll be there if people want to look at it. Let's jump over to the computer and see what I've been building. So this week I've built 2 front-end mentor challenges, and I've also kind of redesigned GitHub folder structure almost. So first up, we'll go through the GitHub changes, the 2 front-end mentor challenges, and I'll touch ever so slightly on my uncle's website. So in terms of the GitHub, I wanted to put all my web development journeys into one location to try and keep my overall area a little bit tidier. So I had to do this manually, so I created a folder and then moved everything over as I wanted to because I didn't want to lose my previous commits. It was a bit time consuming. There's probably a much better way of doing it, but that's how I've done it so far. I obviously need to create this navigation. It's got a lot of placeholder text, and yeah, it needs some work, if I'm honest, a lot of work. But I'm hoping this will keep things tidier than when I'm doing, commits based on my web dev journey. I'll be putting the week number as a prefix. Let's jump straight over to week 9. I've just kept with the usual layouts, boxes. I've added some links along the bottom, website. We'll go to my page, GitHub, and Free Code Camp if people wanted to see my profile. I've also made some notes what I've been doing, what I've covered earlier really. Let's dive right in. So the front end mentor stats card, this was, I believe, a newbie challenge. Yeah. And I just wanted to get back into doing a front end mentor challenge, something simple with HTML and CSS. So this is the 2 designs. You got your desktop version and mobile. And we'll jump straight into my Figma design. So yeah, usual, set up the color schemes. Got some additional colors there, font families. This was just to check some height. So these are the original images and my designs down below. Generally quite happy with it. Possibly have the fonts the wrong way around. They're very similar fonts and I could not really tell which one was going where. So I think that's where the Pro version would be really handy. Like, it gives you the Figma design already. And if we jump straight into my design, again, built for mobile first. So just getting used to doing that habit of mobile first. Quite happy with it. It's got a mobile image. It has the image with a background color, and I believe it uses, it's either multiply or multiply, yeah. Background blend mode multiply, so that gave it the nice purple color. One thing I would say, these links at the bottom that front end mentor add, you can remove them, but I've just left them on. They're not really centered, so it would be nice to center that. And this text here looks a little bit squashed, so that could do with some work. And possibly the padding along the top isn't quite the same as what they had in their design. And if we expand it to the, oops, I've actually done it at 2040. It should be 1440 where it makes the change. But pretty simple change. Created a 2-column grid, set the image to one of them and the text the other. If we go back to the desktop version, I think it looks relatively similar. Capital M for million, but other than that, it's not too bad. Possibly could do with being a little wider. Overall, quite happy. Wasn't too much of an issue during this challenge. Then we've got this Philo data. There was a little bit more complex HTML and CSS, and again, I just kind of wanted to get back into doing more challenges. So this one is a junior challenge. Got your desktop version here. There's a gradient color going on, and then the mobile version. So initially I thought it wouldn't be too difficult, but I did have a few challenges throughout it. The Figma, very similar to the previous one, set up the color schemes. You've got your gradient, and that goes left to right. Yeah, pretty happy with all that. The logo, the images are SVGs, and the background is also an SVG. The background here, though, is only partial. Let's just undo all that. So that was one of the things that caused me a little bit of problems, I guess. The background image here, along with kind of the sizing of the elements when it came to coding up, caused me a few issues, but I think I got there in the end. So this is my version of it. We'll go straight into mobile. I'm quite happy with how this looks. Possible issue with placement of the white dot here and the bar, but generally very happy. I actually got the right percentage as well. So I think I've used this bar as 81.5% of its parent container here. So I was quite happy with that. One issue, so this one I wouldn't say is complete because these links at the bottom, I either set them to position absolute against the body or position fixed, I can't quite remember. And I set it to bottom 0, which does cause some issues when it's on like a really small screen like that. There's a bit of overlap. So I know on my mobile, when it loads, there's like a, your address bar and a little bit in the bottom, which causes the screen to look something like that. And it's not great, so I need to look into fixing that. I believe I used a display table on this white box. So the display table was to make sure the gigabytes left was kind of centered against the 185. Then if we go to the desktop version, so the problem I was having is if it was like really small desktop, I don't know who would have a desktop like that. But then this image, the background was coming along the top, and then when it was really large, it wasn't covering everything. So I fixed that using background size and setting, 100% width and 50% height. The other issue was these box sizes, just to try to make them look a little bit more kind of relative to the image. Generally, I think that's okay. And finally, the last thing was this kind of white triangle. I've done a before pseudo element, I believe. And I think that looks okay, but getting the position of that was a little bit of an issue. There's one other thing I did do this week, but I haven't loaded it up on this yet. I did it on my laptop rather than my desktop, so I just need to sort that out. And someone in the Free Code Camp forum sent a link to like a loader icon. Just wondering if it was possible to do it on CSS and HTML, stuff like that. And I just had a little play around with that. It was quite fun, something different. And then the other thing, of course, was my uncle's website, which I'm not going through that just yet. That's really all the projects I've worked on this week. That's everything for week 9. Next week, I want to make some more progress on my own site. I've kind of been neglecting it a little bit. It still isn't ranking on Google. There's a few issues going on there, so I need to research that. I've kind of not been doing it because I've been almost paralyzed by what I should put on it, I guess. How to design it, it feels a little bit overwhelming. I just need to get something out there, then I can incrementally improve upon it. So I need to kind of pick 1 or 2 really good projects at least to get it started, build my homepage and make sure all my links are working. I also would like to progress my uncle's website a little bit more, try and catch up again with him. He's got some images that I need to get off him and make sure they're uploading properly. I want to work on a front-end mentor challenge that uses JavaScript, something to challenge myself a little bit and to put into practice what I've been trying to learn these past few weeks with JavaScript. Similarly, I want to build a new website, just a random mock-up of probably something like a gym homepage, maybe in a contact and things like that. Something I can put onto my website as a portfolio option as well. Any feedback on projects or anything like that would be greatly appreciated. If you have liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and if you want to see more, then please subscribe. I will catch you all later.